Hey everyone, welcome to Our Small Footprint. My name is Nyssa, and if you're new here, we are a family of 8 who live off-grid in Australia. It is Saturday morning, so yesterday I only showed you a couple of things. Today, again, just a couple of things to get covered into however many days these videos end up being. I made another batch of the scroll dough that I did the other day, the one that's lightly enriched. I can't remember how many days ago it was. I think it was the day that we had company, and I don't even know how much I showed you of that, but same scroll dough. So it's, I do a double batch, but the single batch is about 400 grams of coconut cream, so a tin of coconut cream. So I use a tin of coconut cream with 600 grams of flour, a little bit of sugar, a little bit of salt, and that's it. It's a really basic dough, but I use it for making scrolls with. So I have another container of apples in the fridge, so half of this is going to be turned into a batch of apple scrolls for my neighbour, and the other half, the kids really enjoyed the pizza scroll, so that's what I used the other half of this dough for last time. Well, actually I did a quadruple batch, this is only a double batch, but what I did with some of it the other day was make the pizza pockets on video, and the kids have eaten them for the last few days, heated them up in the morning and had them for lunch or whatever else. But I thought I might make a Vegemite cheese scroll. So that's very much an Australian thing. You can buy them from the bakery here. We got Vegemite in the hampers the other day, and I've got that cashew cheese that I just made up for them. And I thought maybe I'll try cheesy Vegemite scrolls as something different and see what they think of those. And yeah, so I've just mixed up the dough. I'm going to let it proof, and then I'm going to come back and do the apple cinnamon for my neighbour and the Vegemite cheese for the kids. So I just need to find the lid, which I don't know where I put, and let this sit. The other thing I wanted to do was juice the last of the oranges to use to make gummy lollies. Now, I know I could make marmalade, I could make pulpy orange jam, all these things. But honestly, I couldn't be bothered. We are not huge jam eaters anyway. I tend to can a lot of berries and stuff because we use that in all sorts of things, like in our yogurts and all that sort of stuff. But orange jams are not something we use a lot of. I still have a lot of jars of boiled orange on the shelf, which is the stuff that I use for the flourless orange cakes. I still have half a dozen of those on the shelf, so I don't need any more of those. And these oranges have seeds in them anyway, which makes them not real great for doing that with, because I'd have to pull seeds out and stuff like that. And yeah, so I pretty much couldn't be bothered making jam. It's hot, and it's not something we would eat it. Of course we would. The kids, they eat jam. We don't eat huge amounts of it, but they do eat it. But yeah, basically, just couldn't be bothered. So I'm going to juice the last of it. I've got a bunch of the juice frozen for other things, but this lot I want to turn into gummies. So I might juice a couple of limes as well and mix it in with the orange juice. And then we'll sweeten it maybe with some honey or something. I'll figure that out, and we'll make some gummies out of it. So I think, yeah, I don't know if this is plugged in still. Where are we? No. So I'm just going to juice what's left, and then I'll bring you back when I figure out. I think I'm just going to make the gummies with it. So this juicer is amazing. I'm very grateful to our neighbour for lending it to us, because it just cleans them out completely so quickly and easily with very little pressure on arms or anything. Alright, so that was however many oranges were there. What do we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 oranges, and it gave me all of this, which is what's that? That is 4 cups of orange juice, or 2 pints of orange juice, which is a considerable amount for that amount of fruit, and that's thanks to this juicer. Not that you can see much of anything because my kitchen, as per usual, is just a cluttered mess. Really needs a clean, but in this, like, really needs a tidy up. It gets cleaned every day. It gets cleaned before I use it every day, but it accumulates stuff when I'm this busy, and some of the stuff doesn't get put away because I'm still using it. But anyway, so yes, that was 2 pints or 4 cups of juice. So that's, you know, we'll do that again. We've got enough oranges there to do that again. And then we'll do some limes, and yeah, we'll just go from there. I think I'm going to strain it before I turn it into jellies. The occasional seed gets through there, but there's a fair bit of pulp in there too, and I think the kids will appreciate better if it's strained, though the fibre in the pulp is a good thing too. I'll have a look at it when I do it and see how much, you know, sediment and stuff's in it, but I'm just going to do the next lot of juicing first. Alright, so I've ended up with a full half gallon, half a gallon, quarter of a gallon, and then some lime juice. So we've ended up with 15 cups, and it's always hard to tell with these. That's 6 cups, and this is a little more than 6 cups. By the time I strain this, we'll probably have 12 cups of juice there with the orange and the lemon. So I'm going to do a quick strain. I'm not going to excessively strain it, but I am going to run it through just the metal colander, just take out the significant lumps, and I'm going to use a spatula to push it through so that we get as much liquid as possible, but we don't get any seeds. Wooden spoon's easier than a spatula to grab at the moment. Now, I do get asked all the time about the peels and stuff. I put about 40 or 50 of them aside the other day to use for fire starters. And then I already have a couple of gallons of citrus vinegar, so I don't really need that. And I don't have a particularly easy way to dry the skins, and the skins aren't very nice anyway on these oranges. These oranges are seconds oranges, so the skins aren't great. But the pigs love citrus, so mostly the excess citrus that we have this batch will be going to the pigs because they adore it, and it's good for them in summer. It's nice and cooling, and I just don't need them. So I've kept a good amount aside that I'm going to try and get dried and clean to use for fire starters, and then I've already got the citrus vinegar and things like that. So just to let everyone know that I use it as much as I possibly can. But if I get bulk juice, bulk oranges a couple of times over a span of a couple of shopping trips, I just end up with more than I can use. And that's partly why we have animals, is to take the excesses so that nothing gets wasted. And it definitely doesn't, because it benefits us to feed the pigs and chooks and that scraps, because it costs us less in feed that way. So that's what will happen with the majority of the citrus skins from this batch of bulk citrus that I got, just because I know I'll get asked. I've got multiple jars of citrus vinegar around that we use diluted to as a cleaning agent and things like that. So yeah, and I'm not going to dry any of the skin to grind down for salts or anything, because the skins on these ones is just not very nice. I prefer to use navels too. I find that the skin on a navel has better oils and better tastes than what these must be Valencias, because they've got seeds in them. I didn't ask because I don't really care, but because they've got seeds in them, they must be Valencias, not navels, and I find that navels just have a better tasting skin for things like that. So there you go. What did we end up with? Not quite 12 cups, which is fine, because we'll probably add some sort of honey or something to these as well. Make them honey. I did think about adding a little bit of strawberry puree or something just to add a little bit of colour and sweetness and things like that. Let me have a think and I'll decide. I just went in the fridge and found 2 half punnets of strawberries. I don't know how, obviously the kids missed them. So I'm going to puree these up to add, I'm contemplating, because I stuck them in here just because I was taking the tops off them and sat there and went, maybe I should turn them into strawberry ice cream for the children instead of adding it to the gummies. I do have the pureed berries though, which would probably work better for the ice cream. I don't know, I was going to make orange gummies and I just found all these strawberries in the fridge. Should I add pureed strawberries to the orange gummies, or should I make ice cream out of the strawberries?
It's the ice cream.
You want me to make ice cream?
Yes.
All right, so I'll save these for ice cream because I just had a thought while I was doing it, and we'll just stick with this and the honey. So all I need to do is bloom some gelatin in some of this, so I'll get a bowl to do that, and then we're going to warm the rest of it up to melt the honey before we mix it together. So all right, I poured out probably 2 cups of juice in here so that we can bloom the gelatin. Again, I'm running out of space here. And then I have the other 10 cups just on low heat warming up so that we can melt the honey in that. So with jelly, like when you want gummy lollies, you're looking at 3 to 4 tablespoons per cup. So we have in here 12 cups all up. So we want 36 to 40 tablespoons. Which is a lot of gelatin. That was probably half this packet. It's probably close to 500 grams of gelatin, which makes these not a particularly cheap sort of a thing to do, but good for the kids, and a good way to use this juice. So all I've done is get that into a smooth sort of a jelly paste, which will make it easier to blend into the other juice. So, and then I'm just going to measure out the honey into the other one, and then we'll bring it all together. All right, so I put 12 tablespoons of honey in here. So 1 tablespoon per cup. That should be plenty because the oranges were really nice and sweet anyway. So I'm just going to bring this up to a very slight simmer. We don't want to heat it too much. We just want it warm enough that when we pour in this gelatinous mix that it's going to dissolve, and we're not going to have any grit in it. And then I'm going to just use baking trays. I do have some tiny little gummy things like teddy bears or Christmas ones or something, but that's a lot of effort, especially for this quantity of gummies. So I'm just going to set it in a flat, and dirty pan and camera line there that I've stacked eggs from breakfast. Flat, and then we can cut it into little squares. So that's the goal. Okay, it's very warm to the touch. I've still got the heat going, so I'm going to start trying to get some of this to blend in nicely. So because it's such a large quantity, it's pretty thick. So I'm going to start a small amount of time to try not to make a mess. And just get it blending through so that it's dissolved, and that's working quite well. There's a couple of little lumps in here that will hopefully be able to whisk out, but I might strain it as I put it into the tray too. It's hard at this quantity. It's a big quantity to be making at the same time to get all the gelatin sort of working, but I don't want to overheat the juice either because we want it to be the somewhat raw juice, somewhat raw honey, as a, get the most benefits out of it as possible if we're going to go to this much effort. All right, there's a couple lumps. I'm going to turn the heat off though because I don't want it to come up too much hot, and I'm just going to let it sit for a minute while I get the pan ready, and then I'll come back and whisk it and see if those few lumps will just dissolve in there. Found this container, which is perfect, except that I found 2 lids but only 1 base. And it's not going to be big enough for all of this. So I'm going to put some in here, and then I'm going to have to find something else. Now, the texture looks really good. There appears to be no lumps. I pulled 1 little bit of gelatin that just seemed to refuse to dissolve. But other than that, it all looks good. It's a bit tart, but not excessively tart, which is good. And this will be perfect to cut it into little squares. I just can't see, yeah, myself fitting it all in there, no. So I'm going to need something else for some of it. That's about all I want to put in there because I don't want to risk spilling it everywhere. So that one will set up just like that, and I'll just cut it straight in the container and we'll figure that out. But I need a second container. These aren't as great because they're slightly fluted on the sides, which just makes it harder to get stuff out, but I don't want to line it with baking paper either because it's just unnecessary. So we'll manage. It should be fine. There you go. So I'm just gonna find the lid for this one, stick this in the fridge, and I'll show them to you in a few hours. They should just be set up into nice little juby lollies for the kids made out of orange. Now, these are not going to last very long, but if they were drinking it as orange juice, it'd be gone in one sitting. This is going to last a little bit longer than that and add a bit more nutrients to it as well with that gelatin. So I'm going to do that now. I'm going to do something with the strawberries as well, and my dough is proofed, so I'm getting there. So my dough is well and truly doubled, and I want to use half for apple and half for a savory. I'm just going to grab a bit of flour to put on my thing on my bench, but I also want to weigh out about half of it too. It doesn't have to be exact. But I do want to have about half for each one, so though it seems to be less weight than I expected. I'm sure I added it up when I was doing it, but let's have a look at it all, and we might just eyeball it. Do it like that. All right. How much did we end up with? Around about 750. Don't know. All right, so I'm going to roll it out nice and thin with the assistance of my rolling pin and a bit of flour, because we're going to be putting the wet apples on this, so adding flour to it's not going to, like, normally I don't like to add too much flour to when I'm rolling dough out and stuff like that or shaping it, but the thing is that we're going to be adding cinnamon apples, so we're adding a fair amount of liquid, and that little bit of flour is not going to be an issue. So we just want to roll this out as much as we can into a rectangle so that we can roll it all up. I normally try and stretch it out to around about the rectangle of the internal part of the dough mat. This dough is quite springy today in the warmer weather. Yeah, it doesn't have to be perfect. And then we're just going to spread apples on it. And it's about 1 kilo of apples with some cinnamon sugar stewing. And I'm just going to spread it all out, leaving a gap at the top. Now, some people would take these apples a whole lot smaller than this, but I kind of like the texture of them. I like that they've still got a little bit of crunch and things like that. All right, I'm just going to wash my hands, because if I've got too much of this juice on my hands when I'm trying to roll it, it's going to stop it from sticking to itself. All right, and now I'm just going to start rolling. Again, we're not being pedantic here at all with the size of the apples. it's going to be messy scrolls anyway. And then I pile them into the tray, and it makes it look kind of neat anyway, because it makes it look almost like a pull apart rather than scrolls, because that's what happens with this kind of bulky filling. If you want them prettier, you could puree the apples, or you could make them a whole lot smaller, but I kind of like the rustic look to it. So I'm going to bring this back up here. We've got a fair bit of flour on here, which is why it's not sticking as well as it could be, but we're just going to roll it so that that's on the underside, and when we put it in the baking tray, that those join bits we're going to push together so that they, as the dough cooks and rises, those bits push together. So let me get a baking tray. I'm going to line it with baking paper, because all this apple and sugar is going to seep out of these, and it will burn and go sticky and really hard to manage. So we're going to line it with baking paper, and then we're going to cut them. Now, I find the easiest thing to use is a bread knife, because that way we're not squishing it completely when we're trying to go through it. So I find the serrated bread knife the best. Now, 12 to 15 is the easiest number to fit in this tray, like 3 across and then 4 or 5 deep. So let's have a look. If we go half and half, and then we take this into thirds, we'll end up with 12. So that will work well. So, oh, baking paper's flying away. Alright, so messy, nice thin dough, lots of apple, and then we just place them all into the baking tray, and all that dough will puff up in between, and it'll be dough with some apple rather than, or apple with a bit of dough, sorry, rather than dough with just a little bit of apple. And that's just the way I like it. So there's heaps of apple in each scroll, and we tuck them in nice and firm. Six in there. All right, so there you go. That's those. We're going to let them proof for half an hour to get nice and puffy with a cover on them, on top of the oven that is preheating, so nice and warm. And then we're going to roll the rest of this dough out with the Vegemite cheese. So similar sort of a concept. I'm just going to roll it out. There's probably a bit of cinnamon apple left on this bench. I'm not concerned. The thinner you can get your rectangle, the bigger, the thinner, the more like lines of swirl you have on the inside, which is always nice. So just going to do that like that. Now we have, let me grab the Vegemite. Now, Vegemite is not something you need a lot of. I really like Vegemite. It's got some great flavor, but it's definitely can be overpowering, and probably could have mixed this with something or warmed it up a little bit to make it easier to spread. But I haven't made Vegemite cheese scrolls for the kids before. Some of them aren't huge fans of Vegemite, some of them are, but I don't know if they've tried it with cheese, and Vegemite and cheese is a really nice thing. So alright, so that's all I'm going to do, just sort of a thin layer of Vegemite, and it's pretty much covering the entire surface. Then I've got the cheese that I made the other day, the cashew cheese, and it's pretty solid now. So it's like a, oh that's right, I dropped a spoon in here yesterday, didn't I? And I couldn't get it out. So it's pretty much a block. I have a board here, And I'm running out of room as per usual. Isn't this what I complain about every single time I cook? Let me shuffle some stuff. All right, so I've got the cheese here and I'm going to just slice it really thinly. It'd be good if I grated it, but I couldn't be bothered pulling my grater out. This cheese will grate though. It's very soft, and the more it warms up, the softer it gets, but you can grate it, which is part of the beauty of this cheese. And I'm just going to, what we're going to aim to do is like if it was shredded. We're just going to scatter this all over like I would if I was using grated dairy cheese. So just want some in every spot and it will melt through. I think that should be enough because it is going to melt. I'm just going to wash my hands and then we're going to roll this up. People who don't like Vegemite don't have to eat it, but I like Vegemite. I like Vegemite and cheese, so I thought you guys
about the boys.
might like to try it.
I think some of them don't like it. But
Well, they can try it or not if they want.
I like Vegemite because it's healthy.
Yeah. So we got that up nice and nice and tight. Can you grab me another one of my cast iron baking trays, babe? Just like that. And we're going to do the same thing we did with the apple one. I'm just going to wash my knife first. Because the middle always ends up thicker no matter what I do, because, you know, I'm not that skilled, I always make sure to put the middle pieces towards the outside edges and the end pieces towards the middle of the baking tray, because they're going to be smaller, so the outside edges get more heat. This dough is already doing its second proof thing. It feels lovely and supple. So it will only take sort of 15 minutes and then I'll stick it in the oven with the apple ones. So there you go. Vegemite ones. They never look great like this, but they cook up so good. So those are done. Last thing I'm going to do before I clean up the kitchen is this ice cream. So I'm going to split these strawberries between two, like that. And then I'm going to split a tin of coconut cream between the two as well. And I'm going to grab a little bit of water and take that, half a tin of that each as well. And then I'm going to add some vanilla, it's protein pudding because it's good for thickening it. I use Macro Mike brand. I did approach Macro Mike about an ambassadorship, thinking that, you know, I use their product all the time and I advertise it all the time and maybe I could get some cheap. But I don't think I'm polished enough. If you look at their Facebook page, all the people who are advertising their products have really clean, aesthetic kitchens, and yeah, that's not me, is it? So, and I've got my, got my stick blender, and all I'm going to do is blend this up. All right, so there we go. We've got two strawberry ice creams. I'm going to top the water. I'm just going to top them up very slightly with water just to the max fill line and then stick them in the freezer, and the kids can have them in the next couple of days. So now I'm going to clean my kitchen and get these scrolls in the oven. And then all I have to worry about is dinner, which I have no idea, but we'll get there. Good morning, everyone. It is Monday. I'm pretty sure this is going to follow on with another video, so I haven't done intro or whatever. Now, one of the things I need to get done is, this is the gelatin gummies that I made with that fresh squeezed orange juice, lime juice, and some honey and gelatin. We're going to see how well these turned out and what the kids think of them. They look really nice and solid. But we'll see the texture because there's a possibility. It was a new brand of gelatin that I bought. It's an Australian one that I found that was nice and cheap. This gelatin, I can't remember what the name of the brand was and I've shaved it off. But a new one anyway that I tried. And some of the gelatins really do have very different setting points. So per cup of juice you want to do 3 to 4 tablespoons of gelatin. I did 3, so we're just going to see how it is set up. It feels very firm. It might be a little too firm. The kids might not like the texture. Gelatin's really good for them. Then we got the orange juice and stuff, so we'll see. Let's have a look. Let's get some out and we'll have a look. Alright. There we go. So, this is what they look like. They're still bouncy. It probably doesn't need to have that size. Like you could probably cut them in 4 and then they could have 2 little bits each if they wanted them. So the texture is, it's not bad. It is a firm jelly, but it's got a little hint of sour, a little hint of orange. I think the kids will like these. I'll go and test it out on them. Everybody was, pretty happy with it. No one turned their noses up at it, so it works. All I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it all up and put it back in the container, and then they can help themselves from it. So that's them. Now, the plan for today is to get the rest of the chicken sorted. So before I do that and start meat processing, I'm going to slice up a loaf of bread from yesterday for the kids. And they can have toasted sandwiches. I've got that cheese that I made them the other day made up. There's ham, or they've still got the chocolate swirl peanut butter stuff, or I can't remember what they had for dinner last night, but there might be leftovers from dinner. Oh, they had rice paper rolls last night, so there is still some salads and chicken left over from that, whatever they want. But first up, get some bread sliced for them, and then they can pick and choose what they want to do with the bread. So this was yesterday's bread. It's always so much easier to cut it when it's cold. Of course, it's nicer the first day, but it's still lovely and fresh the second day. So that's loaf of bread for them for today. There is another loaf there too if I need to cut some more up, but because I can cut it nice and thin when it's cool, it makes it easier to make it go further. So bread cut. Now I'm going to wipe the crumbs off and get started on the chicken. Alright, I've cut up 2 of the containers of chicken. I've still got probably this amount left, maybe twice this, I can't remember. We're going to get this going because we want some for lunch. So I've got a bunch of paprika on the top. I'm just going to add my normal, some salt, some pepper. I have to grind some more of that up. Some garlic. Carefully measured, yep. Onion. I'm going to add a bit more paprika than what I ended up with on there. We'll check the colour once we mix it all up. And then a really good amount of cowboy candy juice. And then I'm just going to massage it all together and have a look at the colour. If it's not quite coloured enough, like if it's not quite red enough, then I'll add a bit more paprika. This is 4-ish kilos. So realistically, once I mix this up, I can probably do almost the same amount of seasonings again on the other half of the chicken, but we'll have a look at what it looks like. And then we're just going to cook it all off in the cast iron. I did do those thighs in the oven the other day and they're fine, but I do prefer it this way. So even though it's a little bit more hands-on time, I think this is what I will go back to doing. sometimes add a little bit of lemon juice or oil, but we're going to be cooking it off straight away, so it's not such a big deal. We might just add a bit of ghee to the pan when we cook it off. And I would normally use mustard powder, but I can't find my ground mustard seeds, so I'm just going to skip it for this particular batch. Yeah, a little bit more again, about that again. And then maybe, because we haven't got the mustard powder and stuff, a sprinkle of the Vegeta. Rather than adding more salt and pepper and all that sort of thing, just do the Vegeta mix. About twice that. Yeah, one more. Yep. And that, instead of adding more salt and the individual things, Vegeta is basically, you know, garlic, celery seed, onion, salt, all that sort of stuff. So that looks pretty good.
And a character from Dragon Ball Z.
Character from Dragon Ball Z?
Vegeta.
Oh, Vegeta's a character from Dragon Ball Z, is it? Okay. All right. No, I know nothing about it. So that looks good. So now all we can do is heat the pans up, put some ghee in, and fry it all off. All right, we got the first lot done. So we've got 3 containers full here. These are going to go in the fridge. And then I've got 3 more packs of chicken to do. So these lots will probably go in the fridge for the next few days eating. And then these 3, what I'll do is I'll cook it all up and then I'll let it cool a bit, and then we'll probably bag it up, vacuum seal it, and stick it in the freezer. I really like having chicken cooked in the fridge, in the freezer, because it means that even if I forget to pull something out, I can just pull the bag out, stick it in a bit of warm water for 5 minutes, stick it on a pan, and it'll break up and cook up, and I can use it in pastas, I can use it with salads, in wraps, anything like that. Canning it works similarly, but I find the flavour is better frozen than canning it. Canning it is sort of a plain shredded chicken, and the texture is a little bit different. Though I haven't tried canning, I do ugly chicken normally, which is raw chicken canned. I haven't tried canning it once it's already in pieces and marinated, and it is something that I will do. Not today though, because I don't know if I'm gonna like it or not. So I want to do a small batch and just see what it's like. But at the moment, this is all needs to be done because I got way late and didn't get the chicken done. And this is all stuff that needs to be done today for use by dates and stuff. So I'm just going to do it. I'm going to do the exact same process as I did before. I'm going to cut it all up, put it in a bowl, marinate it, and then get it all cooked off. I find it easier to cut it before cooking because then the marinade ingredients get all over the chicken rather than the just on the outside of the thighs. And I like to cut it small because it cooks nice and quickly, but it also then defrosts nice and quickly, reheats nice and quickly. It's just it just works. I'm sure there are plenty of other ways to do this, but for us, we love thighs. We love them just grilled like this in a little bit of ghee with all these seasonings. And the easiest way to do it is to do it in bulk and bag it up. So that's all I'm going to do is just work my way through all 3 packets of these and then season them, cook them off, and get them in containers for the fridge and then the freezer. All right, so I've done the other 3 packets. I've split it between 2 bowls just because to get good even coverage of marinade, you need to have space. So I'm just going to split the rest of this jar of the cowboy candy. This is predominantly juice, a little bit of the jalapenos, but mostly juice from the end of the batch because that works well for marinating. Some salt, a generous amount of paprika. Again, just eyeballing. It really doesn't matter for us. We want the flavors and the color. Same as last time. Some onion, generous amount of garlic. Now, I haven't got any more ground black pepper. I will have to grind some. And what else did we add? A little bit of the Vegeta. Bit of spice would be good because I don't have the cowboy candy. The peppers are probably not all that important. I'd have to find all the grinders to grind the pepper. I don't think I've got. I do have some peppercorns in here. It's not going to be as much as I would normally add, but a little bit of pepper for flavour. And then we're just going to mix it up, cook it off just like the last lot, and then find enough containers or bags to freeze it or refrigerate it or whatever. So I'll mix this up and I'll start it cooking. All right, so all that chicken got put in the fridge, and I'll deal with it and vacuum seal it once it's cool because we can't use the chamber vacuum with hot items. And it's easier to separate when it's cold anyway. The last thing that I have in the way of meat that needs to be sorted today is a pack of breasts. So we're going to have these for dinner with some leftovers. I have the keto crumb mix that I made, which is pork panko and some egg white powder and things like that. I put a bit of seasoning in it, and then all I'm going to do is I'm going to do sort of mini fillet slice style schnitzel type things for everyone to have. So I'm just going to cut it into thin schnitzel type things. Just take it horizontally across like that, so that we've just got pieces like that. And I'll probably take the tenderloin off as well. And we've got the tenderloin piece and this piece here as well. So we get about 4 sort of good sized pieces per breast. And then I'm going to dip them in egg and crumbs and just shallow fry them. I've got some potatoes steaming for the kids for mashed potato. I will do some veggies as well. And yeah, we'll just have sort of chicken schnitzel type things. If the kids want to, I do have some pizza sauce I think in the fridge, so I could put some pizza sauce and some of the cashew cheese I made on some for them as well if they want, and make them real schnitzel type things. I don't know that I've ever done real schnitzels for the kids because it's just not really my thing. I'm not really into soggy chicken, and I always find that adding tomato products to the top of a crumbed piece of chicken always ends up being a bit soggy. It's just really not my thing, but we will see. So I'm just going to cut all these up and then get moving. All right, so I cut all the chicken into fillets, and then I've got some eggs beaten and some of the keto crumbs, and I'm just going to fry it off. Now in the pans, cast iron pans, I have a bit of ghee and oil mixed together because that tends to work really well to for the temperatures. Yes, a decent amount of oil because we're shallow frying it. Sonnet is giving a bit of a commentary on how much oil is in the pan, but it's a shallow fry crumbed dish. There's always a bit of oil. So all I'm doing is that, dipping it in egg, dipping it in a bit of crumbs, and then I'm going to put it in the pan. And just keep going. Now, if you use one hand for the egg and one hand for the crumbs, then you don't get all icky. You haven't heard that one before? I was surprised when I said that to someone once and they said they hadn't thought about it, but maybe my grandmother taught me that one, I'm not sure. But one hand for dry, one hand for wet, and then you won't get all icky fingers and spread the crumbs and the egg everywhere. So you can crumb these and just freeze them, flash freeze them, just crumbed without cooking. But I'm just going to cook it all up and
Eat it.
we'll either eat it for dinner, or there'll be some leftovers, which will be nice to be. We can even cut them up to have on wraps or something tomorrow. This is partly what I bought. The similar sort of concept is what I bought the Steggles pre-made schnitzels that I bought that are in the freezer. I always hesitate to buy them because I can just do this sort of thing myself, but it is time consuming, and they were really cheap for what they were. They were like $15 a kilo, I think, already crumbed. Obviously not keto crumb though, and this is all going to be keto crumbed, but it was more for the kids than anything else anyway. This is just a bit of a novelty for Darryl and I. You can turn the camera around to the pan and flip the chicken for me. Point it down a bit maybe if you need to. Perfect. And have a look at it's probably cooked. What if it's not?
You don't want this one on. So I know that one was on, you wanted this one on, but there's some chicken in as well.
dinner is sometimes so hard to film. So all Darryl and I are doing is just having some of this keto crumbed chicken with some homemade mayo, and the kids are having it with mashed potato and leftover salad from the rice paper rolls last night. So the leftover cucumber and carrot and a bit of mayo and things like that. So that is dinner done, and they worked out quite well. So this would probably be the end of this video. I think that that's about going to be about the space of time again. We will see. So thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you on the next one.